Hi, it's time for Mr. Man. I'd like you to meet some of my very favorite friends. But first, a story about me.
Not yet, Mr. Noisy. We want to start our show with someone who makes everyone laugh.
Okay, Mr. Voice, but will we see my story soon?
Very soon, Mr. Noisy. Mr. Funny lived in a teapot. It had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room, and it suited Mr. Funny very nicely. One day, Mr. Funny was having lunch. He wasn't very hungry, so he only had a daisy sandwich and a glass of toast.
Delicious,
He murmured to himself as he finished his funny lunch. After lunch, Mr. Funny decided to go for a drive in his car. Mr. Funny's car was a shoe. Have you ever seen a car that looks like a shoe? It looks very funny. As he drove, everybody who saw him laughed at such a funny sight. He passed a worm by the side of the road. The worm thought Mr. Funny was the funniest thing he had ever seen. He nearly laughed himself in 2. He passed a pig in a field. The pig thought Mr. Funny and his funny car was the funniest thing she had ever seen. She nearly laughed her tail off. Even the flowers he passed thought that Mr. Funny was the funniest thing they had ever seen. They nearly laughed themselves out of the ground. Eventually, Mr. Funny came to a crossroads. He didn't know which way to go, so he looked at the signpost. One of the signs said, "To the zoo,"
Oh, that'll be fun.
thought Mr. Funny to himself. So he drove his shoe toward the zoo. When he arrived at the gate of the zoo, he stopped. It was closed,
I'm sorry,
said the zookeeper.
but we've had to close the zoo because all the animals have a cold, and they're all feeling very sorry for themselves.
Oh dear,
Said Mr. Funny. And after thinking for a moment, he said,
perhaps I can help cheer them up.
Well,
said the zookeeper,
it's worth a try, I suppose.
and he opened the gate. Mr. Funny drove into the zoo in his shoe. The first thing he saw was an elephant. It was true. The elephant was feeling very sorry for herself. Very sorry indeed. Mr. Funny stood and looked at the sad-looking elephant. And the sad-looking elephant stood and looked at Mr. Funny.
Oh dear.
Then do you know what Mr. Funny did? He made a funny face. Mr. Funny, as you'd imagine, is very good at making funny faces. The elephant giggled. She'd never seen anything so funny. Mr. Funny made another funny face. The elephant burst out laughing. The elephant laughed and laughed and laughed. She laughed so hard, she nearly laughed her trunk off. And she felt a lot better. Mr. Funny went over to the lion cage. There was a lion feeling extraordinarily sorry for himself. Mr. Funny stood and looked at the sad-looking lion, and the sad-looking lion stood and looked at Mr. Funny.
Oh dear.
And then Mr. Funny made the funniest-looking face that's probably ever been made anywhere, ever. Now, you've heard a lion roar before, haven't you? Well, this lion roared too, with laughter. He laughed so hard, he nearly laughed his whiskers to pieces. Then Mr. Funny went around to see all the other animals in the zoo. Oh dear, what a miserable-looking lot. For all of them, Mr. Funny made funnier and funnier faces. The big brown bear giggled and then burst out laughing. And the giraffe laughed so hard, she nearly laughed her neck into a knot. And the hippopotamus nearly laughed himself out of his skin. And the penguins nearly laughed their flippers floppy. The leopard, well, you really should have seen him. He laughed so hard, he nearly laughed his spots off. What pandemonium!
Oh, Mr. Funny!
Giggled the zookeeper, who had started laughing as well.
Oh, Mr. Funny, thank you very, very much indeed for coming to cheer us all up.
Oh, it was nothing really.
Replied Mr. Funny modestly, and drove off in his shoe. Later, when Mr. Funny arrived home, he chuckled to himself. he said.
That's the end of another funny day.
And he parked his shoe and went inside his teapot. And because he was feeling thirsty, he made himself a nice hot cup of cake.
Now, me!
No, not yet, Mr. Noisy. Right now we have a story about a man with his head in the clouds. This is a story about Mr. Daydream. You know what he looks like, don't you? Because you've seen his picture at the beginning. It's also a story about a little boy named Jack. And you don't know what he looks like, so here's a picture of him. Now, Jack was a very good little boy. He always ate all of his lunch. He always went to bed when he was told. He always said please and thank you. But Jack was a daydreamer. Whenever he was supposed to be thinking about something, he found himself thinking about something else. Daydreaming. One day, Jack was at school. He was sitting at his desk listening to the teacher talking about history. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, Jack saw something outside the window on the grass in front of the school. Something blue. A small, cloud-shaped figure. Jack couldn't believe his eyes. The figure looked at Jack, looking at him, smiled, and waved. Jack looked at his teacher, who was still talking. Then he got up quietly, ever so quietly, and slipped out the open window. He crossed the grass to the strange-looking cloud-shaped figure.
Hello.
He said.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Mr. Daydream.
Said the figure.
What's your name?
Jack.
Said Jack.
I'm going off on an adventure.
Said Mr. Daydream to Jack.
Would you like to come with me?
Oh, yes, please.
Replied Jack.
Very well, then.
And putting 2 fingers in his mouth, he let out the loudest whistle Jack had ever heard in his whole life. A huge bird swooped down out of the sky and landed beside Jack and Mr. Daydream.
Come on.
Said Mr. Daydream to Jack, and climbed onto the bird's back. Jack climbed on too. It was an enormous bird, and there was plenty of room for both of them.
Hold on.
Said Mr. Daydream. Jack held on tight. The huge bird flapped its huge wings, and suddenly they were high up in the air. They flew over fields and farms and towns and hills and trees and valleys until they were far, far away from Jack's school. It was very exciting. Mr. Daydream turned to Jack.
How would you like to go to Africa?
He shouted. They were traveling so fast now that Jack just nodded his head and held on even tighter. And suddenly, it seemed in no time at all, there below them was Africa. The bird landed in a jungle clearing. Jack and Mr. Daydream climbed off the bird's back. It was very hot.
Come on.
Said Mr. Daydream to Jack.
Let's go and explore.
So, off they went, pushing their way through the jungle. Suddenly, in the middle of a clearing, they saw an elephant.
Hello, Mr. Daydream.
Trumpeted the elephant down its trunk.
Would you like a lift? Yes, please.
Replied Mr. Daydream. And the elephant reached out his trunk, picked him up, and put him on his back. Then he reached out his trunk again, picked up Jack, and put him on his back. It was very high. The elephant carried them through the jungle until they came to a river, then put them down on the ground and said,
Bye-bye.
and went off back into the jungle.
How are we going to cross the river?
Jack asked Mr. Daydream.
Perhaps I can be of assistance.
They looked, and there was a crocodile,
Use my bag.
suggested the crocodile. It was very helpful. They were halfway across the river on the crocodile's back when the crocodile grinned a rather nasty grin. All teeth and no smile. Then, flicking his enormous tail and shooting Jack and Mr. Daydream up in the air, the crocodile opened his horribly large mouth and waited. It was very frightening,
Oh, dear.
gasped Jack as he looked down at that enormous mouthful of teeth.
Oh, dear. Oh, help.
Mr. Daydream, upside down beside him, put 2 fingers in his mouth and let out that very large whistle of his. Suddenly, just as the crocodile's mouth was about to go snap, the big bird swooped down out of the sky. Mr. Daydream and Jack landed right on the bird's back.
Phew.
Said Jack.
Foiled again.
Said the crocodile.
Well, I promised you an adventure, didn't I?
Grinned Mr. Daydream.
You certainly did.
Said Jack.
And now,
Said Mr. Daydream.
I think we'll go to Australia.
And they did. And Jack learned to throw a boomerang so that it always came back to him.
And now,
Said Mr. Daydream.
I think we'll go to the North Pole.
And they did. And Mr. Daydream fell right up to his middle in a snowdrift.
And now,
Said Mr. Daydream.
I think we'll go to the Wild West.
And they did. And Mr. Daydream found a huge 10-gallon cowboy hat. The trouble was, when he put it on, he couldn't see. He called from underneath the hat.
Jack!
Suddenly, Jack realized that it wasn't Mr. Daydream calling his name. It was his teacher. And Jack wasn't in the Wild West. He was sitting at his school desk.
Jack,
Said the teacher again.
you've been daydreaming.
And it was true. He had. Or had he? Mr. Noisy, this is no time to be sleeping. We have a story about one of your best friends, so wake up! Mr. Uppity was one of the rudest, if not the rudest people in the world. He was rude to anybody and everybody. So of course in Big Town, which was where he lived, he had no friends at all. Not one. Miserable old Uppity, they used to call him. And he certainly looked it. Now, as well as being rude, Mr. Uppity was also rich. Very rich. One of the richest people in the world. He had the largest, longest limousine in Big Town. He had the largest, longest garden in Big Town. He had the most enormous house on top of the hill in the middle of Big Town. The biggest house in Big Town. And there he lived, all alone, miserable old Uppity. One day, Mr. Uppity was walking in the gardens of his enormous house when suddenly he heard a voice.
Hello.
Said the voice. Mr. Uppity looked, and there, in one of his hundreds of flower beds, was a goblin.
Are you not going to say hello to me?
Asked the goblin.
Go where?
Said Mr. Uppity rudely.
Oh, I know who you must be.
Said the goblin.
You must be Mr. Uppity, who's rude to everybody.
Sniffed Mr. Uppity rudely.
Well, I know somebody who would like to meet you.
Mr. Uppity's curiosity got the better of him. He followed the goblin.
In there.
Said the goblin, pointing at a small hole in a tree.
Don't be silly.
Snorted Mr. Uppity.
Oh, I'm not being silly.
Said the goblin.
Yes, you are.
Snapped Mr. Uppity.
I can't possibly get in there.
Smiled the goblin, and then said a magic word, known only to goblins, which sounded like... or something like that. Suddenly, Mr. Uppity started shrinking. He shrank and shrank until he was exactly the same size as the goblin.
Turn me back to my right size at once.
Spluttered Mr. Uppity in a rage.
I won't.
Grinned the goblin. Then, the goblin climbed through the hole into the tree. Poor Mr. Uppity didn't know what to do, so he followed him. Inside the tree, there was a staircase going down and down. It led directly to the kingdom of the goblins.
I demand to be taken immediately to whomever is in charge.
Oh, you shall.
Grinned the goblin, and he led Mr. Uppity through the streets of the kingdom of the goblins until they came to a palace. The goblin and Mr. Uppity passed through the gates and into a courtyard and through some more gates and along a long corridor and through some large gold doors and into a huge room. There, sitting on a gold throne, was the king of the goblins.
Your Majesty,
Announced the goblin, bowing low.
may I present Mr. Uppity?
Ah,
said the king.
so you're the fellow who goes around being rude to everybody and doesn't have any friends.
Nonsense.
Said Mr. Uppity rudely.
I can see that what I've heard is true.
Said the king, looking at the indignant Mr. Uppity.
You're much too impressed with your own importance. Therefore,
He continued.
I'm going to allow you to be turned back to your right size. But when you get back to Big Town, if you're rude to anybody at all, you will immediately shrink to the size you are now. Do you understand?
The goblin then took Mr. Uppity back through the kingdom of the goblins and up the staircase and out of the tree at the bottom of Mr. Uppity's gardens. The goblin looked at Mr. Uppity and said something which sounded like, and Mr. Uppity grew back to his original size.
Now, you remembered what the king said.
Warned the goblin.
Don't be so uppity in the future.
The following day, Mr. Uppity was out walking through the streets of Big Town when he met an old lady carrying a large shopping basket.
Excuse me,
She said to Mr. Uppity.
could you tell me what time it is?
No.
Said Mr. Uppity rudely. But as soon as he'd said it, you know what happened, don't you?
Oh dear.
He gasped, and then he thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He said to the old lady.
What I meant to say was, it's 25 after 11.
Immediately, Mr. Uppity grew back to his original size, the old lady thanked him, and he went on his way. Then he went and bought a newspaper from a man standing on a corner of the main street in Big Town. He was just about to walk away when suddenly he stopped and he thought. He turned back to the man and said,
Thank you.
Thank you was a word Mr. Uppity had never used before. The man smiled. A smile was something Mr. Uppity wasn't used to getting. Thank you was a phrase Mr. Uppity not only had never used before, but had never had said to him before. Mr. Uppity smiled. He felt happy. Happy was a feeling Mr. Uppity wasn't used to feeling. He liked it. And do you know? From that day forward to this day backward, Mr. Uppity is a changed person. He's still the richest person in Big Town, perhaps the richest person in the world. But now he has lots of friends, and he smiles a lot. And he never gets that shrinking feeling. And do you know which words Mr. Uppity uses most of all these days? Please and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Uppity, and please, is it my turn yet?
Not yet, but here's a friend of yours who always has a ball. Mr. Bounce was very small, like a rubber ball. He just couldn't keep himself on the ground. He bounced all over the place. And as you can imagine, that made things very difficult. Last week, for instance, Mr. Bounce was out walking when he came to a farm. He climbed over the farm gate, and you can guess what happened next, can't you? He jumped down from the gate and bounced right into a duck pond. Went the ducks. The other morning, for instance, Mr. Bounce was in bed. He woke up and jumped out of bed, and you can guess what happened, can't you? He bounced right out of his bedroom door and all the way downstairs. Bounce, 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 bounce. After he had picked himself up, Mr. Bounce sat down to think. Mr. Bounce bounced off the chair and banged his head on the ceiling.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Mr. Bounce thought to himself, rubbing his head.
I must do something to stop all this bouncing about.
He thought and thought.
I'll go and see the doctor.
So after breakfast, Mr. Bounce set off to the nearest town to see the doctor. He was passing a tennis court when he tripped over a pebble and bounced right into the court where two children were playing tennis. And you can guess what happened next, can't you? The children, who didn't realize that Mr. Bounce wasn't a tennis ball, started hitting him with their tennis rackets, back and forth.
Ooh. Oh!
Poor Mr. Bounce. Eventually, one of the children hit Mr. Bounce so hard that he bounced right out of the tennis court. Mr. Bounce bounced off down the road toward the town.
Oh, dear.
He said, feeling very sorry for himself.
I've been bounced black and blue.
bus was coming down the road, and Mr. Bounce decided that the safest place for him to be would be on that bus. He got on and sat down, still feeling more than a little sorry for himself. The bus drove into town. The bus stopped right outside the doctor's office. Mr. Bounce stepped down from the bus. And you can guess what happened next, can't you? He stepped off the bus and onto the pavement and bounced right into the doctor's window. Dr. Macuel was sitting at his desk enjoying his morning cup of coffee. Mr. Bounce sailed through the open window and landed in the coffee.
Ouch!
Squeaked Mr. Bounce. The coffee was very hot,
Good heavens!
exclaimed Dr. Macuel. After the doctor had fished Mr. Bounce out of his coffee and sat him on some blotting paper to dry out, he listened to what Mr. Bounce had to tell him.
So, you see,
Said Mr. Bounce finally.
you must give me something to stop me from bouncing all over the place quite so much.
Pondered the doctor. After some thought, Dr. Macuel went to his medicine cabinet and took out a pair of tiny red boots.
This should do the trick.
He told Mr. Bounce.
Heavy boots. That should stop bouncing. Oh, thank you, Dr. Macuel.
Said Mr. Bounce, and he walked home wearing his red boots. Not bounced, walked. That night, Mr. Bounce went to bed wearing his new boots. And then he went to sleep. The following morning, he woke up and yawned and stretched and bounced out of bed. He went straight through the bedroom floor and ended up in the kitchen. And now, finally, it's time for Mr. Noisy!
Yay! Mr. Noisy! Ha ha!
This story begins when Mr. Noisy was asleep in bed, in his bedroom, in his house, which was on top of a hill. He was snoring. And as you can well imagine, when Mr. Noisy snored, that was a snore worth hearing. Then Mr. Noisy's alarm clock went off. Mr. Noisy woke up, and so too did all the people who lived in Wobbleville, which is at the bottom of Mr. Noisy's hill. Later that day, Mr. Noisy decided that he had to go shopping. He went out of his house, shutting the door behind him. The door wobbled. The house wobbled. The whole hill wobbled. Wobbleville wobbled. Even a bird flying high above wobbled. Then Mr. Noisy walked down the hill. He walked into the bakery.
I'd like a loaf of bread.
Boomed Mr. Noisy to Mrs. Crumb, the baker's wife. Mrs. Crumb trembled and sold him a loaf. Then Mr. Noisy walked along the street to the butcher shop. He walked into the butcher shop.
I'd like a piece of meat.
Boomed Mr. Noisy to Mr. Bacon, the butcher. Mr. Bacon trembled and sold him some meat. Afterward, Mrs. Crumb met Mr. Bacon on the street.
We really must do something about Mr. Noisy being so noisy.
She said.
Absolutely.
Replied Mr. Bacon.
But what?
I know.
Said Mrs. Crumb. And she whispered into Mr. Bacon's ear. Mr. Bacon smiled a small smile, which grew into a broad grin.
Mrs. Crumb,
He said.
I think you have the answer.
The following day, Mr. Noisy went shopping in Wobbleville again. He went into Mrs. Crumb's shop.
I'd like a loaf of bread.
He boomed.
Sorry. What did you say?
Asked Mrs. Crumb, pretending not to hear.
I'd like a loaf of bread.
I can't hear you.
Replied Mrs. Crumb. Mr. Noisy gave up and went out. Mr. Noisy went into Mr. Bacon's shop.
I'd like a piece of meat.
He boomed.
Did you say something?
Asked Mr. Bacon.
I said I'd like a piece of meat!
roared Mr. Noisy.
I beg your pardon?
Said Mr. Bacon. Mr. Noisy gave up and went home. He went to bed that night, hungry. The next day, Mr. Noisy tried again. He went into Mrs. Crumb's shop.
I'd like a loaf of bread!
He boomed,
A what?
asked Mrs. Crumb. Mr. Noisy started shouting at the top of his voice.
A loaf of...
And then he stopped. And then he thought. And then he said quietly,
I'd like a loaf of bread, please, Mrs. Crumb.
Mrs. Crumb smiled.
Certainly.
She said. Then Mr. Noisy went into Mr. Bacon's shop.
I'd like a piece of meat!
He boomed,
Did you say something?
asked Mr. Bacon.
Yes! I did!
Shouted Mr. Noisy at the very, very top of his voice.
I said I'd like a...
And then he stopped. And then he thought. And then he said quietly,
I'd like a piece of meat, please, Mr. Bacon.
Mr. Bacon smiled.
My pleasure.
He said. So carrying his bread and his meat, Mr. Noisy set off for home up the hill. Then he stopped. Then he thought. And then do you know what he did? He tiptoed. A tiptoe was something Mr. Noisy had never tried before. It was fun! And do you know something? From then on, Mr. Noisy wasn't anything like he used to be. And do you know something else? The people of Wobbleville are delighted, especially Mrs. Crumb and Mr. Bacon. And do you know something else? Mr. Noisy has learned how to whisper.
Who can make any one day a fun day? I don't know. Who can turn any frown upside down? Mr. Funny. Who can make any sad face smile again? Goes Mr. Funny, Mr. Men. Mr. Funny. Hey, Mr. Take it from Mr. Me. And me. Those men are funny as can be. Who can fill any one time with sunshine? Uh-oh. Who can make any cloud disappear? Where did it go? Making you laugh before